W5FC. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. Space exploration and space history. 6. Was Up. 7. Topic or constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. And 9. Recent astronomical discoveries. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A. And 12. 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So, let's start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. We'll take general check-ins. Please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving.
Kilo 5, or Kilo Golf 5, Papa, KG5P, Mike and Richardson.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz in Mesquite.
Kilo 5, Alpha, November Papa, Allen in Dallas. Kilo 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall. Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay and Mesquite.
Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
Kilo Echo 5, India, Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Ranch.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, that's a good healthy gaggle. Let's pick up all of these now. N5BB Bill, KG5P Mike, KF5JHA Chaz, K5ANP Allen, K5PM Rich, K5JDW John, N5OF Clay, K5KTX Kelly, KE5ICX Tom, W5EBB David, KFBL Bill, KG5WVL James, and KG5APL Patrick. All right, do we have any more check-ins?
Number 5, Whiskey Tango Alpha, Jonathan in Irving.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas.
Kilo, India 5, India Sierra, India, Eric Richardson.
Okay, Jonathan, I missed your prefix. Would you come back with that, please?
Sure. November 5, Whiskey Tango Alpha, Jonathan Irving.
Very good. N5WTA Jonathan, KF5TSK Burl, and KI5ISI Eric. Okay, do we have any Echolink check-ins? Okay, any other check-ins from any mode? Please come now.
This is
Golf Romeo Hotel, Melissa in Dallas.
Okay, we had doubles. Melissa, give us your prefix, your whole call sign, please.
Kilo India 5, Golf Romeo Hotel, Melissa in Dallas.
Okay, KI5GRH, Melissa. And the other call, know your voice, but I can't remember your call. Would you please come back?
Yes, this is WD4MFI Whiskey Bravo number 4 Mike Foxtrot India Ted Dallas Low Power.
All right, we got WB4MFI Ted. Welcome to the net, everybody. Okay, do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? They can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now.
KE5ICX.
KE5ICX. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brenda. Just to let everyone know, this information is also available on the Dallas Amateur Radio Club website, which is whiskey5foxtrotcharlie.org, W5FC. And look under TechNet News for today. Coming up in just 1 week from today is this month's lecture and lab. We have one the fourth Saturday of every month. This one will be virtually and online, of course, talking about WinLink Radio and the email software that goes along with it, of course, which are one and the same. It's both fun and useful in an emergency. Served agencies just love to use email when they can, because talking to people is not what they do. The contest calendar also is plenty of operating opportunities. The RSGB Hope QSO party is continuing, and there's some unusual events like the Portuguese Navy Day contest and the CW event in honor of the King of Spain. I know that. Also in amateur radio news, a new release of candidate for WSJTX has just been released. It offers improved decoding, speed, and reliability, so you should give it a try. There's a number of other announcements here. Just go to w5fc.org. Look under the TechNet News. Boy, I cannot talk tonight. Look under TechNet News directly below the Skynet information, and you'll find all of this as well as hot links going to all of the events going on. There seems to be quite a few of them. So go there, and don't forget next week's lecture and lab virtually. We had a number of people check in. It was well worth it. Back to you, Ms. Brenda, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central. You'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on the website. It's amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. Dallas AMSAT Net, Dallas-Fort Worth, is every Wednesday at 9 on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9. Positive offset. This is not our only net tonight. You need to stay up late with us. We're going to have a movie net. We call it Afterglow. And so I'm going to read what Tom has written. The ISS floated through space. It was just another day. The 6 astronauts decided to eat something together. There's Bill, Brandy, Yuri, Ken, Barbie, and Jim. Except, wait, get your slide rule out. The number of astronauts only comes to 5. Where is Jim? A couple of astronauts discreetly look out the window just in case Jim decided to take a quick walk to get away from it all. No dice and no Jim. The crew alerts Gilliam LaRue in charge of the ISS missions. He responds to the news. Again? How am I going to explain another lost astronaut? But he had managed to fool an astronaut's wife by putting a department store mannequin in a spacesuit and claim he was practicing for a long-duration mission. She wasn't very bright. That wasn't going to work with Bill's wife, who was suspicious of just about everything. Join us for the low-budget, well, that's an understatement, sci-fi adventure The Beyond from 2017. This Saturday, May 16th at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. And there is a Facebook page, Afterglow. What's the name of it? Hold on. It's a closed page. You have to, it's called Afterglow Movie. You have to join, but that is not a problem. And then you can get information about all the latest low-budget sci-fi movies we're going to watch. The one tonight is available free on YouTube, and it's not even worth free. So I don't know how you can get your money back if it was free. Okay, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Of course, there are not many events going on right now, but Chaz, KF5JHA, will tell us what's going on with the TAS.
Thank you, Brenda. Hello, everyone. This is KF5JHA, and I did turn down my echo link, so you probably won't hear me in the background right now. The next meeting of the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas is in 6 days. On May the 22nd, it will be another virtual club meeting using Zoom. If you're a member in good standing, you've already been sent a link to that. So if you haven't been sent a link and you're a member in good standing, please contact one of the officers, and they'll be glad to send out that information to you. Our featured speaker is Dr. Phil Marshall. You know what I'm going to do now. Dr. Phil is the senior staff scientist at SLAC National Accelerator Laboratory in Stanford University. SLAC stands for Stanford Linear Accelerator Center. The title of his talk is Exploring the Universe with the Rubin Observatory. The Vera C. Rubin Observatory is being built on a mountaintop in Chile. It'll house a survey telescope that will image the night sky faster and deeper than ever before. Its camera is 3.6 gigapixels. Okay, I have a camera that does a few megapixels, but gigapixels? Wow. It will be the biggest digital camera ever built. The Rubin Observatory will be able to image the entire visible sky every few nights and build up, over a 10-year period of time, a 900-frame full-color movie of the deep night sky. This will be a great meeting. Hey, parking will not be a problem. Okay, does anybody need any fill or have any questions about that? Come now with your call sign. Okay, Brenda, I guess it's all back to you. KF5JHA.
Thank you, Chaz. All right, next up, National Space Society events and activities. N5BB, Bill, can you tell us what's going on there?
Why, yes, Brenda. Very little. This is N5BB. The National Space Society normally meets on the second Sunday of every month, but the last 2 months, in April and May, we've had virtual meetings with presentations on WebEx. Because all the museums are closed and the schools we normally go to, we can't do any community events. So, not a lot is going on in 5BB.
Okay, thank you. Any more check-ins? Please come now.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford.
All right, we got KG5, ZM Golf, Joe, and K5, KG5, BZW, J. Welcome to the net. All right, right, we're going to move on to our discussion topic. Tonight we're going to talk about the X-37B, which, unless you've been off planet, you know that it was supposed to launch this morning and didn't. Bad weather caused a delay. They're supposed to launch tomorrow morning. Of course, you can go on the internet and see it live, which I hope to do if it's not too early. This has been the secret robot space plane of the military for a long time. And, but this new one, they're actually telling us what some of the experiments are. Back channel says the launch is at 8:17 Central. So, that's not so early. So, the next flight of the U.S. military's reusable X-37B space plane, scheduled for liftoff May 16th. That was today. Now it's May 17th. From Cape Canaveral, will carry more experiments into orbit than any of the winged ship's previous missions, including 2 payloads for NASA and a small deployable satellite built by the Air Force Academy cadets. Military officials announced new details about the upcoming X-37B mission Wednesday and confirmed its target launch date on May 16, now 17. The Boeing-built spaceplane was mounted on top of a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket on Tuesday inside the Vertical Integration Facility at Cape Canaveral's Complex 41 launch pad. The unpiloted spacecraft launches inside a payload shroud on top of a conventional rocket, unfurls a power-generating solar array in orbit to generate electricity, and returns to Earth for a runway-like landing, like NASA's retired space shuttle, and it's the same landing strip that the shuttle used there in Florida. The 6th mission is a big step for the X-37B program, says Randy Walden, Director and Program Executive Officer for the Air Force Rapid Capabilities Office. This will be the first X-37B mission to use a service module to host experiments. The incorporation of a service module on this mission enables us to continue to expand the capabilities of the spacecraft and host more experiments than any of the previous missions. Service module is attached to the aft end of the X-37B spaceplane, providing additional capacity for experiments and payloads. The X-37B itself, measuring more than 29 feet long, also has a cargo bay inside its fuselage. Secretary of the Air Force, Barbara Barrett, said Wednesday that the Air Force's Rapid Capabilities Office is partnering with the U.S. Space Force and the Air Force Research Laboratory on the next X-37B mission. In today's age of electrons, space systems track storms, locate stranded motorists, time-stamp credit card transactions, and monitor treaty compliance, Barrett said in a statement. Demonstrating the department's innovation, this X-37B mission will host more experiments than any prior missions. This launch also demonstrates the department's collaboration that pushes for reusable space systems. Barrett said the 6th upcoming flight maximizes the X-37B's unique capabilities. This important mission will host more experiments than any prior X-37B flight, including 2 NASA experiments, Barrett said Wednesday. One is a sample plate evaluating the reaction of a select significant materials to the conditions in space. The second studies the effect of ambient space radiation on seeds. The X-37B also carries a space-based solar power experiment. A third experiment designed by the Naval Research Laboratory transforms solar power into radio frequency microwave energy, then studies transmitting that energy to Earth, Barrett said. Once in orbit, the X-37B will also release a small satellite named Falcon Sat 8, developed by Air Force Academy cadets in partnership with the Air Force Research Laboratory. The small satellite carries 5 experimental payloads. It will be operated by the Air Force Academy's Cadet Space Operations Squadron. In a statement Wednesday, the Air Force said it continues to push the flight envelope for the X-37B and will build upon its growing collaboration with experiment partners with its 6th mission. Barrett said Wednesday the Air Force is declassifying some of the service's space activities. The X-37B, which Barrett said was previously cloaked in secrecy, has logged 2,865 days in orbit on 5 previous missions. The X-37B, also known as the Orbital Test Vehicle, remains an Air Force asset, officials said. The newly established Space Force is responsible for the launch, on-orbit operations, and landing. The ability to test new systems in space and return them to Earth is unique to the X-37B program and enables the U.S. to more efficiently and effectively develop space capabilities necessary to maintain superiority in the space domain, the Air Force said in a statement. Boeing has built 2 X-37B vehicles for orbital flights. The program began under NASA management before transferring to DARPA in 2004, then to the Air Force in 2006. The first X-37B space mission launched in April 2010. 4 of the previous X-37B flights have launched on ULA Atlas V rockets, and 1 lifted off on a SpaceX Falcon 9 launcher. The 6th X-37B will fly on a version of ULA's Atlas V rocket without any strap-on solid rocket boosters and a 17.7-foot diameter payload fairing. Technologies being tested in the program include advanced guidance, navigation and control, thermal protection systems, avionics, high-temperature structures and seals, conformal reusable insulation, lightweight electromechanical flight systems, advanced propulsion systems, advanced materials, and autonomous orbital flight, reentry, and landing, Air Force officials wrote in an X-37B fact sheet. The X-37B team continues to exemplify the kind of lean, agile, and forward-leaning technology development we need as a nation in the space domain, said General John J. Raymond, the Space Force's Chief of Space Operations. Each launch represents a significant milestone and advancement in terms of how we build, test, and deploy space capabilities in a rapid and responsive manner. The 5th X-37B mission concluded with a landing at the Shuttle Landing Facility runway at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Boeing and military teams readied the reusable space planes inside a former Space Shuttle processing facility at Kennedy. All right. Do you wonder if they've told us everything or if there's more secret stuff? Well, okay. Any more check-ins?
This is
On to space exploration and space history. Kelly, K5KTX. Please go ahead.
Brenda, this is K5KTX. I think that you doubled over somebody that was trying to check in, so if you want to take that check-in real quick.
Thank you. Station trying to check in. Please come now.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform David, St. Paul, Texas. Late check-in.
Okay, KG5EIU David. Thanks for checking in. All right, Kelly, the net's yours.
Thank you, Brenda. This is K5KTX, NASA's Cold Atom Laboratory, a facility for fundamental physics experiments on the International Space Station, recently underwent a major hardware upgrade with the help of astronauts Christina Cook and Jessica Meir by chilling atom clouds to just above absolute zero, the lowest temperature matter can reach. Cold Atom Lab enables scientists to directly observe unique atomic behaviors, helping answer questions about how our world works at the smallest scales. The new hardware will dramatically expand Cold Atom's capabilities. Installing the upgrade in space was something of an experiment as well. On Earth, that task would fall to engineers with years of experience handling the components. To avoid bringing the facility back down from the space station, a costly and time-consuming step, the mission team guided Cook and Meir through the installation via live video conference from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Physicists use ultra-cold atom facilities on Earth for a variety of experiments that probe the fundamental behaviors of atoms. Chilling atoms to within 1/10,000,000th of a degree above zero, which is minus 459.67 degrees Fahrenheit, causes them to slow down significantly, making them easier to study. At those temperatures, some atoms can also form a fifth state of matter called a Bose-Einstein condensate that does not exist in nature. Bose-Einstein condensates provide a unique window into the strange world of quantum mechanics, which governs the universe at very small scales. Cold Atom Lab is the first ultra-cold atom facility in Earth orbit. In the weightless environment of space, atoms aren't pulled down by gravity, so they exist in their unbound, ultra-cold state for long periods of time. This characteristic enables scientists to observe their natural behaviors in a way that is not possible on Earth. 5 science groups have been conducting experiments with Cold Atom Lab since it began operating in the summer of 2018, and they're eager to begin working with the upgraded hardware, including a new instrument called an atom interferometer. In space, atom interferometry could have multiple applications, including making exquisitely subtle measurements of gravity that are useful for fundamental physics research, planetary science, and other fields. For example, atom interferometry could be used to measure changes in gravity across a planet's surface to learn about its composition and subsurface features. The tool could also be used to test Albert Einstein's fundamental theory of gravity to an unprecedented degree. The Cold Atom Lab team recently confirmed that the atom interferometer is working as expected, making it the first instrument of its kind to operate in space. Cold Atom Lab consists of 2 metal boxes, the larger of which is called the Science Instrument and weighs over 400 pounds. Inside is a compartment called the Science Module, which is where the atoms are cooled and the science takes place. To complete the upgrade, Cook and Meir would have to gently maneuver the sizable science instrument out of its operating location on the space station, remove the old science module, and replace it with the new one. They divided the installation into 6 sessions over 8 days, including practice for Cook. Crew time on the station is extremely valuable, so the mission team spent weeks practicing the steps on Earth to optimize the procedure. To reinstall the science instrument, Cook, working alone, would have to inspect and connect 11 precision fiber optic cables. The glass fiber cores of the cables are about 1/20th the diameter of a human hair, and if any were broken, contaminated, or scratched, it could potentially result in mission-ending failures. And how did the installation turn out? So far, it looks like a complete success. The launch window for the Mars 2020 rover, now known as Perseverance, opens around July 17th. So I thought I would take a few minutes during my time on this net to briefly tell you about the instruments on board this rover. This week I'm going to tell you a bit about the Radar Imager for Mars Subsurface Experiment, or RIMFAX. RIMFAX uses radar waves to probe the ground under the rover in order to see geologic features under the surface. The radar antenna is on the lower rear of the rover and weighs less than 6.6 pounds. It has the ability to penetrate greater than 30 feet or 10 meters deep, depending on materials. It will take a measurement every 4 inches along the rover track. The principal investigator is Fine Erik Hamrun from the University of Oslo, and I'm sure I butchered his name. And in space history this week, back on May the 11th, 2009, this was probably my all-time favorite space shuttle mission. So in 2009, May 11th, carrying a crew of 7, Space Shuttle Atlantis began the STS-125 mission with a brilliant on-time launch from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida at 2:01 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This was the final servicing mission for the Hubble Space Telescope. The mission included 5 spacewalks on consecutive days, completing all objectives for servicing and replacing some of Hubble's key instruments and equipment, and extending its life well into the next decade. STS-125 Space Shuttle Atlantis carried 2 new instruments to the Hubble Space Telescope, the Cosmic Origin Spectrograph and the Wide Field Camera 3. The mission also replaced a fine guidance sensor, 6 gyroscopes, and 2 battery unit modules to allow the telescope to continue to function at least through 2014, but as we know, it's still going. The crew also installed new thermal blanket insulating panels to provide improved thermal protection and a soft capture mechanism that would aid in the safe deorbiting of the telescope by an unmanned spacecraft at the end of its operational lifespan. The mission also carried an IMAX camera with which the crew documented the progress of the mission for the Hubble IMAX movie, and if you've never seen that, it is amazing, especially in 3D. The crew included Commander Scott Altman, which, if you didn't know, he was one of the stunt pilots in the movie, the original Top Gun movie, pilot Gregory Johnson, and mission specialist Michael Good, Megan MacArthur, John Grunsfeld, and Mike Massimino, who used the first tweet from space, and Andrew Postal. Landing occurred on May the 24th, with the mission lasting a total of just under 13 days. May 14th, 1973, the uncrewed Skylab 1 space station launched aboard a Saturn V rocket. It was the last Saturn V ever launched. 63 seconds after liftoff, the meteoroid shield tore loose. This caused a cascade of damage to the thermal protection layers and the solar panels that were supposed to provide electrical power. When Skylab reached orbit, it started to overheat and couldn't generate the power needed for the mission. In the next 10 days, NASA personnel worked to keep the station alive while a rescue plan was put together and equipped. The first Skylab crew, Pete Conrad, Paul Weitz, and Joe Curran, had to do things that no one had ever planned, including adding a sun shield to the space station and opening a jammed solar panel. They launched on May the 25th, and that mission saved the Skylab program. On May 15th, back in 1963, the Mercury Atlas 9, or Faith 7, launched. This flight by Leroy Gordon, or Gordo Cooper, was the first U.S. space flight that lasted longer than 24 hours. It was also the first flight of Project Mercury, and therefore the last time that a U.S. astronaut launched solo without another astronaut on board. Cooper's second and last space flight was as commander of Gemini 5 with Pete Conrad in 1965. There had been some discussion about flying a Mercury Atlas 10 mission. Alan Shepard personally lobbied President Kennedy for approval to fly that mission, but the president deferred to the judgment of NASA leadership. Administrator Jim Webb said that it was time to move ahead with Project Gemini. Shepard was grounded for a medical issue shortly afterward and would not fly in space again until 1971, when he commanded Apollo 14, the third mission to land on the moon. And by the way, I got to meet Gordo Cooper just a few years before he passed away, and that was an amazing experience to get to meet him, along with John Glenn. May the 16th, back in 2011, Space Shuttle Endeavour launched on her last space flight, STS-134. The 16-day mission delivered the alpha magnetic spectrometer and other spare parts to the International Space Station. Coincidentally, 19 years earlier, Endeavour's first mission, STS-49, landed on that same day, May the 16th, 1992. Now retired, the orbiter is on display at the California Science Center in Los Angeles, and I got to go see that when I was visiting JPL 2 years ago. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Brenda.
Thank you, Kelly. Do we have any more check-ins? All right, next up, what's up? Says KF5JHA. Tell us what's up.
Brenda, I couldn't have said it any better than you. What's up? Thank you. WB50ZL. This is KF5JHA Chaz, and my degree is in astrophysics. I work at Brookhaven Community College, and we call this segment of Skynet What's Up. I'll be doing something a little different tonight. This will be a combination of What's Up and Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. The moon was at third quarter phase just a couple of days ago on May the 14th. So the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On May 22nd, the moon will be new. That'll be next Friday, which is the beginning of the lunar phasing cycle. And on May 29th, the moon will be at its first quarter phase. On May 21st, look low in the evening sky around 9 p.m. to find our two inner planets in conjunction. That would be Mercury and Venus. Venus is the brightest thing in the sky other than the sun or the moon. Mercury will be slightly to the lower left of Venus and much dimmer compared to Venus. But it'll be a great sight to see. I hope it's clear. We've had so many clouds, but I hope it's clear that evening. Just 2 evenings later, on May the 23rd, 1 week from tonight, you can find the thin crescent moon with Venus and Mercury forming a right triangle. Venus is the apex of the triangle. That'll be a good photographic opportunity for you. Well, Texas Star Party begins tomorrow. Well, it was scheduled that way. Of course, with everything else, it was canceled. The Texas Star Party is a convening of primarily amateur, but also some professional astronomers from all over the world, usually somewhere around 4 to up to maybe 700 people. For many years, it's been held during the week of new moon, most the month of May, on the Prude Ranch, located in the shadow of McDonald Observatory near Fort Davis, Texas. The schedule goes something like this. At noon, you wake up and eat lunch. In the afternoon, you go on tours of McDonald Observatory or listen to different astronomy talks or do solar observing or make amateur radio contacts. Yes, there's a ham shack there. Or, well, you get the idea, something like that. Then you eat dinner. After dinner, there's often a featured talk. Then after that, at twilight, you begin observing. You go to bed by dawn. You wake up at noon, and you do it all over again. It is fun and tiring and satisfying, too. I have 2 fairly new to me telescopes I wanted to use at the dark West Texas skies of the Texas Star Party. So, you know when you get a new telescope, they say the cloudy weather's all your fault, so maybe it's all my fault. The shelter in place and clouds. I hope we get to use them at the Texas Star Party next year. Okay, let me shift some gears. Tonight, we add to What's Up another segment, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. It is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until a year ago, May of 2019. with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 constellations out of the 88 total constellations visible in the Texas sky throughout the year, Carolyn covered the entire sky over Texas in a year. So in her honor, we have continued that tradition. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this month is Boötes. It looks like it's spelled boots if you look at the spelling, but there's an umlaut over those O's. So Boötes represents a herdsman. Most people think it looks like a kite or an ice cream cone. Ooh, a double-dipped ice cream cone from Brahms sounds great right about now. Have I made you hungry already? I was talking about pizza earlier on Echolink. You've got to sign up for Echolink and get on there during Skynet. There is one very bright star in Boötes called Arcturus, which is the fourth brightest star in the sky. You can find Arcturus by using the handle of the Big Dipper. Follow the curve or the arc of the handle, and you run into Arcturus. Other interesting stars on Boötes are Izar, Mu Boötis, Kappa Boötis, and Chi Boötis. Now, Mike, KG5P, really likes to talk about stars in great detail, so I'm going to let him talk about one or more, or all of them. I'll concentrate on deep sky objects and Boötes. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. The first object is NGC 5466. NGC stands for New General Catalog. It is a 9.2 arcsecond in size, and it has a brightness of 9.1 magnitude. So it's small, and it's faint. It's a globular cluster. It requires a large aperture telescope, in other words, a large size telescope, large mirror or lens, to be able to resolve properly. It looks like a fuzzball in an 8 or 10-inch telescope. It is a challenge to find with binoculars. The challenge for this week is try to observe NGC 5466 with binoculars. I would suggest a pair of 20 by 80 binoculars in dark skies. The next object is NGC 5248, which is a barred spiral galaxy. It's fainter than the last thing we were talking about. It's at magnitude 10.3. Some authorities say it's at 10.9, which is even fainter. Smaller telescopes under 8 inches can see it, but only as a weak glow, with little or no structure visible. Stephen J. O'Meara was able to spy this 10th magnitude galaxy with a pair of 7 by 35 binoculars from Hawaii at an elevation of 4,200 feet. But it took much time and effort to do so, and he's renowned for seeing things that normal people can't see in small aperture observing, either binoculars or telescopes. It is easy to see with some structure in this galaxy with a 10-inch telescope at the Texas Star Party. In his entry for this galaxy in his book, The Caldwell Objects, Stephen J. O'Meara writes that Barbara Wilson saw a beautiful structure with the arms revealing many knots in her 20-inch telescope, and this was probably at the Texas Star Party. The final object that I'll cover in Boötes is NGC 5676, a barred galaxy that requires a larger size telescope to resolve. This is a very challenging object to locate. It looks like a faint fuzzy patch in an 8-inch telescope in dark skies. You can begin to see some detail in a 12-inch or larger telescope. You might be able to notice NGC 5660. It's a separate spiral galaxy very nearby. If you look carefully at it, it looks similar. It's dim and fuzzy. There are about 36 other Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Boötes, and I have just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 60 different observing programs. Most of them have around 100 objects in them. If you observe 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate from one of those programs in just a year. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Boötes. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research on the deep sky objects that I've used tonight. I'm not sure what constellation I'll cover next week. Okay, the next meeting of the Texas Astronomical Society is in 6 days. I've already told you that, on May 22nd. And it is a virtual club meeting. I've told you that, on Zoom. If you are a good standing member of the Texas Astronomical Society, you should have already received an email with the links to that Zoom meeting. If not, contact one of the officers and they'll send you that information. Remember, the featured speaker is Dr. Phil Marshall. I like to say Dr. Phil. And he's going to be talking about what? He's going to talk about the Rubin Observatory, which is on a mountaintop in Chile. I hope you get to listen to this. It's going to be a great meeting. Now, TASS will have a resumption of its face-to-face meetings and its public observing sessions, which happen on almost every Saturday night during the month when the shelter in place is over. I hope that is soon. To get more information, go to the website texasastro.org for details. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information, or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may have the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa.
Mr. Star, or some people call you Mike, what's your question?
Okay, Chaz, here's my question. What did Einstein's buddies say when he published his special theory of relativity?
Einstein's buddies say when he published relativity. I don't know. Mike, what's the answer to that question?
They all said, every last one, they all said, it's about time.
Okay, let me see if I can make some other people groan. About time, that's really a warped way of thinking about it. Okay. So, as the moon wanes, so do these words. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. Until next time, keep looking up so you know what is up. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Back to our net control. Brenda, get us out of this. WB5OZL. It's all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. Do we have any more check-ins? Please go now.
Zero, Bravo Charlie, Shane, and
Bethany.
Okay, we got a couple of doubles. I got Shane. I got your name. I don't have your call. Could you please come with that?
Zero, Mike Bravo Charlie.
Okay, K0 Mike, Bravo Charlie, Shane, and Bethany. Do you have a call sign, Bethany? Bethany? Okay, I got a back channel on that. All righty, well, welcome to the net. Okay, next up, we have Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Month. I call on Mike, KG5P, to give us a presentation on this. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, Brenda, thank you. It's KG5P. Actually, Chaz did Miss Carolyn's constellation. He'll probably do one every week. He's far better than I am because I see stars most of the time because I get hit in the head a lot. So tonight's star is Arcturus, which is in the constellation Bootes, as Chaz talked about earlier. Okay, Arcturus is also known as Alpha Bootes, which is the brightest star. That's why they call it Alpha, but that's not entirely true in every case. It's a spring, basically can be seen in the spring, this time of year, and it's kind of an orange star. It's not really a red giant, but it's kind of an orange giant. It's a magnitude of minus 0.5, which makes it quite bright. In fact, it's the brightest star in the northern hemisphere and the fourth brightest star in the night sky, following Sirius, Canopus, and Alpha Centauri. Now, interesting thing, Arcturus name means bear watcher. He follows Ursa Major, the big bear, around the pole. I said it's interesting because the Greek word for bear is Arctus, which is where we get our word Arctic, and it's a reference to the northern polar constellations of the Greater and Little Bear, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. Okay, property-wise, it's about 37 light years away. It's the closest giant star to Earth. In fact, its light was used to open the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, as that light had left the star during the previous Chicago World's Fair in 1893. Arcturus is a classic orange K1 giant star with a surface temperature of about 4290 Kelvin. The sun, for example, is about 5200 or something like that. Its visible light is about as luminous as 113 times the sun, but because of its lower temperature, it radiates a lot of its energy in the infrared. And when this is taken into account, Arcturus' total luminosity is about 215 times the sun. And from this, we can determine its diameter to be about 26 times solar. Arcturus is large and close enough that its angular distance can easily be managed at 200ths of a second, and this provides a direct determination of its diameter, which is 25 times the sun, which nicely confirms to other sorts of observations. Okay, Arcturus is a gas giant containing about 1.5 times the sun's mass, and it's already ceased fusing hydrogen in its core. Although it's somewhat brighter than we would expect for a stable helium-fusing star, helium fusion to carbon has probably already begun. Such stars are not expected to have magnetic activity like our sun, but very weak X-ray emission, and this suggests that Arcturus indeed is magnetically active and has what they call a buried corona, which is hard to observe. Arcturus also has a relatively large proper motion, and the position in the sky changes significantly over the centuries. It's moved about half a degree in the past 1,000 years. Half a degree is about the distance of the full moon, diameter of a full moon, so it would be very easy to spot, even with no instruments. Okay, compared to the surrounding stars, whose orbits around the galactic center are more or less circular, Arcturus falls behind it about 100 kilometers a second. And there are several other stars like that in the so-called Arcturus group. This lagging movement suggests that the star comes from an older galactic population, and therefore it's also believed to be quite deficient in metals, having only about 20% as much iron relative to hydrogen as the sun does. And a more intriguing suggestion is that the star actually comes to us from a small galactic, a small galaxy that merged with ours 5 to maybe 8 billion years ago. You know, the reason that I like this star is because I use it as a calibration star and a star to use to calibrate my go-to mount. And it's real easy to eyeball. You can just spot it at a glance. Other stars I use are Canopus, I use Regulus, Castor and Pollux we've talked about, Antares that we talked about last week, Altair is another one. Be real easy to spot. Arcturus that we just discussed, and Spica. Now, Chaz sort of mentioned this, but if you take the handle of the Big Dipper and you follow it down, the first bright star you hit is Arcturus. So that the handle of the Big Dipper is it's always called the arc to Arcturus, and then if you continue, you get the spike to Spica. So they're quite useful and very easy to spot on a dark sky. So that's why I like it, and it's real easy to eyeball, and I can use it to calibrate my go-to mount. So that includes Arcturus tonight. I think maybe next time I like to do Vega, and that's in the constellation Lyra. So maybe if Chaz can pick up Lyra, I'll talk about Vega. So back to net KG5P.
All right, thank you, Mike. Next up, space launches for this week. Tom, KE5ICX. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. All of this is available. We pull these off of a couple of websites as far as space launches. The first one is Space Coast Launches. That's from spacecoastlaunches.com/blog/launch list. And just plug in Space Coast Launches and launch list, and it will bring up the URL. The second one is spaceflightnow.com/launch-schedule. That's the one that I use primarily because it includes international launches as well as the Florida Space Coast. Now, as was mentioned earlier, the Atlas V USSF, United States Space Force 7 OTV-6 mission was scheduled to take off at 8:24 a.m. today. It's scrubbed. I got the message on the thing at the last second and watched it, and because of weather, it was canceled. It will try again tomorrow. I suggest you tune in around 8 o'clock. Let's see here, Eastern Daylight, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. I double-checked my figures on that. I think it's actually 8, but you don't want to miss it because it'll be quite spectacular. It launched from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral at the Air Force Station in Florida. A United Space Alliance Atlas V rocket will launch the USSF-7 mission, formerly known as AFSBC-7, for the U.S. Space Force. The mission primary payload for the X-37B, as Brenda mentioned, a space plane called the Orbital Test Vehicle on the program's 6th mission. The rocket will fly in a 501 vehicle configuration with a 5-meter fairing, no solid rocket boosters, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. Now, as was mentioned, Brenda mentioned this as well, there's a service module on board. It's an extra thing added to the end of the rocket, which includes additional space experiments on board. I have no picture of that. I'm not sure what it looks like, so you'll have to just imagine a service module. I don't know. May 17th, let me check the dates here. Oh, yeah, tomorrow. I don't know if this is going to launch or not. When things are delayed is interesting. This is from SLC-40. The previous one was from SLC-41. So right next door, Starlink 7 will be launched on a Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket is expected to launch on the 8th batch of nearly 60 satellites, well, exactly 60 satellites from SpaceX Starlink broadband network, mission designated Starlink 7. Now, also in May is Space Launcher 1, a launch demo. This one I've mentioned a couple of times. We'll see. Still no date for launch. Cosmic Girl, a Boeing 747. Used to be a passenger aircraft for Virgin Atlantic, Mojave Air and Spaceport in California. A Virgin Orbit Launcher 1 rocket will make its first orbital test flight after dropping from a modified Boeing 747 carrier aircraft over the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California. This is actually delayed from last summer. We're still waiting. All right, let me skip on down here to May 20th. We've got an H-2B HTV-9 mission. This one's from Japan. In case you are wondering, H-2B is a booster, heavy booster. This will launch from the Hanegashima Space Center in Japan. This will be at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Of course, 12:30 p.m. our time here in Texas. A Japanese H-2B rocket will launch the 9th H-2 transfer vehicle. The HTV serves as an automated cargo vehicle to deliver equipment and supplies to the International Space Station. And the mission we've been all waiting for May 27th, a Falcon 9 Crew Dragon Demo 2 mission. This will launch at 4:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on May 27th from Launch Complex 39A. That's the old Saturn V launch site. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Crew Dragon spacecraft on its first test flight with astronauts on board to the International Space Station under the auspices of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken will fly on the Demo 2 mission. The Crew Dragon will return to a splashdown at sea. Here's some other missions that do not have a date yet. Long March 3B from Beidou in Xijing, China. Chinese Long March 3B rocket will launch a satellite for the country's Bendao navigation network towards geostationary orbit sometime in May. Late May, we have Falcon 9 Starlink 8. This will launch from the SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket is expected to launch the 9th batch of approximately 60 satellites for the SpaceX Starlink broadband network, a mission designated Starlink 8. And that's it from me on launches. There's actually a long list of stuff that may be going up. I just gave you the ones that actually have dates and the ones that are very promising for the month of May. It's a very busy time in space flight. Back to you, Miss Brenda, from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have any more check-ins? All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. The title of this is What's Mars Made Of? Researchers simulate the core of Mars to investigate its composition and origin. Earth-based experiments on iron-sulfur alloys thought to comprise the core of Mars revealed details about the planet's seismic properties for the first time. This information will be compared to observations made by Martian space probes in the near future. Whether the results between the experiment and observation coincide or not will either confirm existing theories about Mars's composition or call into question the story of its origin. Mars is one of our closest terrestrial neighbors, yet it's still very far away, between 55 million and 400 million kilometers, depending on where Earth and Mars are relative to the Sun. At the time of writing, Mars is around 200 million kilometers away, and in any case, it's extremely difficult, expensive, and dangerous to get to. For these reasons, it's sometimes more sensible to investigate the red planet through simulations here on Earth than it is to send an expensive space probe or perhaps one-day people. Kisuke Nishida, an associate professor from the University of Tokyo's Department of Earth and Planetary Science at the time of this study, and his team are keen to investigate the inner workings of Mars. They look at seismic data and composition, which tell researchers not just about the present state of the planet, but also about its past, including its origins. The exploration of the deep interiors of Earth, Mars, and other planets is one of the great frontiers of science, said Nishida. It's fascinating partly because of the daunting scales involved, but also because of how we investigate them safely from the surface of the Earth. For a long time, it's been theorized that the core of Mars probably consists of an iron-sulfur alloy. But given how inaccessible the Earth's core is to us, direct observation of Mars's core will likely have to wait some time. This is why seismic details are so important, as seismic waves, akin to enormously powerful sound waves, can travel through a planet and offer a glimpse inside, albeit with some caveats. NASA's InSight probe is already on Mars collecting seismic readings, says Nishida. However, even with the seismic data, there was an important missing piece of information without which the data could not be interpreted. We needed to know the seismic properties of the iron-sulfur alloy thought to make up the core of Mars. The Nishida team have now measured the velocity for what is known as P waves, one of two types of seismic waves, the other being S waves, and molten iron-sulfur alloys. Due to technical hurdles, it took more than 3 years before we could collect the ultrasonic data we needed, so I'm very pleased we now have it, said Nishida. The sample is extremely small, which might surprise some people given the huge scale of the planet we're effectively simulating. But micro-scale high-pressure experiments help exploration of macro-scale structures and long-time-scale evolutionary histories of planets. A molten iron-sulfur alloy just above its melting point of 1500 degrees Celsius and subject to 3 gigapascals of pressure has a P-wave velocity of 4,680 meters per second. This is over 13 times faster than the speed of sound in air, which is 343 meters per second. The researchers used a device called a Cali-type multi-anvil press to compress the sample to such pressures. They used X-ray beams from 2 synchrotron facilities, KEK-PF and SPRING-8, to help them image the samples in order to then calculate the P-wave values. Taking our results, researchers reading Martian seismic data will now be able to tell whether the core is primarily iron-sulfur alloy or not, says Nishida. If it isn't, it will tell us something of Mars's origins. For example, if Mars' core includes silicon and oxygen, it suggests that, like the Earth, Mars suffered a huge impact event as it formed. So, what is Mars made of, and how was it formed? I think we're about to find out. Okay, this is from ScienceDaily.com, and you can go there and see the whole article if you want. I read the whole article, but you can read it again if you want to. right, next up, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. KE5ICX, would you like to tell us about those, please?
Why, yes, Miss Brenda, I will. Yeah, I know. Maybe we shouldn't call it passages or whatever, maybe just passes. But that's what it's been for the last 8 years, and we all stumble over that word. That's what templates do. That's what templates do. I can't sing. Okay, let's see. We have just a limited number of these. I got the International Space Station. I was busy trying to figure out why the heck I didn't have the link in for this on ISS from Heavens Above. But you can go there, heavens-above.com. There's a little hyphen between heavens and above. Plug in your longitude and latitude. You know what to do to find it. And you can go ahead and make it happen. Let's see here. Oh, jeez, it still doesn't have the right thing. All right, I'm going to have to vamp this a little bit. Hold on. This would be May 17th. I'm going to have to kind of pull it from the map because I didn't put down the main thing. This will be at 4:42 a.m. out of the northwest. The ISS will pass over. I don't have I don't have magnitude on this because I lost that thing. But 4:42, it'll come out of the northwest. It'll go through Ursa Major, then through Ursa Minor. Reach its highest point at about 4:49. It'll go through Cepheus, through Pegasus, and then through Bootes, I believe. I'm looking and seeing here, and it'll fall at 4:51. There is a second pass in the evening. This is the same date, this May 17th. This one will come out at, out of the southwest. It'll go through Canis Major, Gemini. I can't even pronounce that constellation, but it's interesting. And then Draco, everything goes through Draco. When you think about it, it's a big, huge thing at 2126, and falls to the northeast at 2131. Now, I can give you a little better information on the Hubble Space Telescope because I got the direct link here, which was my original intent. So let's go ahead and look. We got May 24th. Now, this one I can give you magnitude because I have everything here. That one also has two passes. The first one's a 1.8 magnitude at 20:53 local time. It'll reach its highest point at just 29 degrees at 20:57 out of the south-southeast, and it'll fall at 2100. It has a second pass 90 minutes later at 2.0 magnitude at 22:34 local time out of the west-southwest to reach its highest point at 22:36 at 31 degrees and then fall to the southwest at 22:36. And then finally, I just picked a pass. They're all, well, not real low, but relatively low. May 25th, 1.4 magnitude at 22:23 local time out of the west-southwest. Yet again, 22:26, it reaches its highest point at 41 degrees and falls to the south-southwest at 22:26. At 41 degrees, I think that one falls into shadow, though. Let me look at the diagram. Sure enough, yes, it does. It falls into shadow because it doesn't quite make a full pass. Now, this website's really great for a number of reasons. Not only can you pick up this information on visible satellite passes, but you can also do amateur radio satellites. They are also listed. Now, they don't give you a lot of details on the actual frequencies and things like that, but they will say when they're overhead. No Keplers, no special programming involved. All you need to do is have a web browser that's relatively recent, plug in your longitude and latitude, and you get all that information. That's it from me, Miss Brenda. This is KE5ICX, back to net control.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, we're running a good time tonight. Do we have any Astronomical Q&A. Any checked-in stations with other remarks or questions? Or fills? Do we have any final check-ins?
Hey, I had a question. KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, go ahead.
This one would be for Chaz or Miss Kelly, having to do with the Texas Star Party. It sounds like you have to avoid the moon on these things, so what's the variation normally, with the exception of what's going on right now, for a Star Party? How do you calculate out what's the best time to have the Star Party, and how do you let everybody know that that's it from KE5ICX?
This is KF5JHA. I'll take it if Kelly doesn't want it.
Go ahead, Chaz.
Okay, so the Texas Star Party is usually in the month of May, and they decide on which weekend, well, I should say which week, by looking at the new moon. And hopefully the new moon falls within the middle of that week. If not, they want the new moon to probably usually fall toward the end of that week. And that's the week they pick. And they usually figure it out a year ahead of time so everyone knows what week the Texas Star Party is going to be. Did that help you out, Tom?
Well, thank you, Chaz. Yes, it does. I just watched an episode of Cosmos, and they were talking about blowing up the moon in the episode. Believe it or not, that's a whole nother story. Never mind. At any rate, thank you. I appreciate that. Back to you, KE5, or back to Miss Brenda, KE5ICX.
Okay, very good. Well, then we'll close. Tonight we had 24 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WBOZL, Brenda, and I will be closing the net at 10:23 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But go powder your nose, stand by. We're going to have the Afterglow movie net. Tom, what time will we start that?
10:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time.
All right, you got 6 minutes. And come back here and we're going to talk about this fine film. All right, this is WB5OZL Clear.
normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Alrighty, it's 10:30 by my clock, so hello everyone to another week of the Afterglow Movie Net. Every week we watch a particular movie and meet Saturday nights, tonight, around 10:30 on this repeater, W5FC. The movies are often science fiction, but not always. This week's movie was The Beyond. This is K5ANE. I'll be your net control for the evening. So let's go ahead and get started. The Beyond is a 1981 Italian supernatural horror film about a woman who inherits a hotel in rural Louisiana. And if you saw that movie, you caught the wrong one. This week's movie was also titled The Beyond, produced in 2017 or 2018, depending on who you ask. In this film, strange anomalies happen in orbit above the Earth. After spending way too much money shooting probes into the anomaly, they determine the anomaly is actually a wormhole. It looks like a planet is on the other side of the wormhole, so the definitely not NASA space agency decides to send people there. Did I say people? When I say people, I mean to say human brains transplanted into robots, because meat sacks probably won't survive the journey through the wormhole. The graph pulls a contact-like sudden return to Earth, where the giant black balls are floating all over the Earth for some strange reason. Probing the human hard drive shows some weird videos suggesting to the human robot scientists spent years on the planet but have fractured memories. Suddenly a bunch of asteroids are heading towards Earth, and the balls spring to action to make a shield and save humanity from certain doom. Humans decide the aliens must really like us more than we like each other, and suddenly the entire solar system seems to be reconfiguring and a sister planet appears next to the Earth. Humanity makes more human-robot hybrids to start colonization of the new planet to maybe make a few less mistakes on round 2 of having a planet. And then the movie ends. Very interesting film from a small film organization, it seems like. So yeah, let's go ahead and just talk about the net real quick. The normal format for this net, we start off talking about our thoughts on the plot. Then we'll move on to characterization, and then we'll talk about special effects and other things we care about the movie. Let's go ahead and get started with some check-ins. We'll start off with check-ins over the air. Come on in with your call sign, your name, your location, and if you saw the movie or not.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I did see the movie.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw the movie also.
This is Glow Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom in Louisville. Yeah.
This is KI5ISI, Eric Richardson. Yes.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto. Yes, I saw the movie.
All right, let's stop there for a second. We have November 5, Tango Mike, Tony, who saw the movie. November 5, Bravo Bravo, Phil and Irving, who saw the movie. KE5ICX, Tom, who also saw the movie. KI5ISI, Eric and Richardson, who saw the movie. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas, who saw the movie. And then WB5 OZL, Brenda, who saw the movie. Did I get all those call signs right?
Recheck, N5BB.
N5BB, go ahead.
Yes. The call is November 5, Bravo Bravo. The name is Bill. Bravo India, Lima Lima. And Tony is November Tango 5, Tango Mike. This is N5BB.
Thank you, N5BB. I got that down now. November Tango 5, Tango Mike, and N5BB, Bill. All right, let's go ahead and continue on with check-ins.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas.
Echo Bravo Bravo, I didn't quite catch your full call sign. Come again?
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David, Dallas.
All right, did you see the movie?
Yes, I did. W5EBB.
All right, this is K5A&E Net Control. Let's continue with check-ins. Come on in with your call sign, name, location, and if you saw the movie.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jaden near Weatherford. I saw part of it.
All right, I got KG5BZW. I missed your name in Weatherford and that you saw some of the movie. Come back with your name.
Name's J. Juliet Alpha Yankee.
All right, Jay, I got you down. Let's go ahead and go on with some Echolink check-ins now. Go ahead and come on in with your call sign, your name, your location, and if you saw the movie. All right, nothing hurt. We'll do some more check-ins later. Let's go ahead and get started. So we'll start off by talking about the characterization We'll start off by talking about the plot. This is K5A&E Net Control of the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. NT5TM, Tony, what did you think of the plot?
Good evening, Kane. I've been too sleepy to make a lot of the nets lately, so I don't know if this is your first net or your fifth, but it's really great to hear another net control. That's new to me. Thank you very much for being here tonight. I think that there was hidden in the plot of this movie an absolutely award-winning episode of television. Now, as filmed, the plot was simply too long and too full of holes. I am not interested in transhumanist television commercials about the process of selecting the people whose brains are going to get transplanted into the gooey gel-filled robots, or the importance of Soldier 2.0 and Human 2.0, and how we always have to refer to them as Soldier 2.0 and Human 2.0 instead of Jones and Bob or whatever. There are a lot of goofball science plot holes. If you take the life support system out of a space capsule, you may as well throw the whole thing out, because you're moving its center of gravity, the moment arms for all the thrusters are going to be wrong, you got to rewrite all the software, blah, 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 blah. That's the kind of stuff that always gets glossed over in, say, an episode of Star Trek. But they really did a good job of being a little different. The writer even kind of taunted us by trying to set up this group of, we've got the disabled guy, the white guy, the black guy, the woman, the other woman, these Michael Crichton-esque ensembles, and then, they can't go, we're done. It's usually, I always tell people to show, not tell, and the plot never really is clear about what wonderful things are happening at the end to save us. I mean, the reconstruction of the solar system is interesting, but they start saying we were saved even before that. But that's kind of okay, because, sometimes you have to kind of go confusing, like at the end of 2001, because whatever they would have said, I would have told you wasn't good enough. So they out-Grinched me there by just not even being clear about what it was, by just counting on a sense of wonder. So I wish it had been shorter. I laugh at the plot holes, but I actually did enjoy it and find it interesting. I thought there was a lot of potential here. NT5TM.
NT5TM, thanks for that. This is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Let's continue on here. November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill, what did you think of the plot?
Hey there, Kane. This is N5BB, and thanks again for being Net Control again. So it's at least your second time. I lose track. And I'm the guy that was sitting down at the end of the table over at the restaurant, and I forgot your name, but now I remember it. So, that was the last time we kind of got together after, I guess, one of the movies. Anyway, over at the deli. Anyway, I completely agree with Tony. So, I thought there were some interesting plot things, and there was a huge number of holes, and they focused on certain things, and there's other things they just didn't want to spend any time on, probably because the special effects would be too hard, and also maybe they didn't even want to write that part of the plot. My guess is it wasn't that they left it out, but when they were writing the thing, they just didn't bother writing certain portions, even as a tentative, outline. Anyway, a few things I have. I got a number of notes. So a few things I have is, number one, whoever put it up there on YouTube called it a documentary. Yeah, that's right. There's no N. They did not put the N in documentary in there. It's a documentary, which is a common misspelling of documentary. Anyway, I thought it was very weird that the organization we were looking at was the Space Agency Incorporated, a private group, which I found very strange. Very early in the plot, they showed the director's security badge laying on the table. Did you look at it? I did. I'm very familiar with security badges. It was a little temporary paper badge inside one of those plastic sleeves. That wasn't a real highly confidential security badge. Nope. That was really low budget movie security badge. That's what that was. They early on talked about frequency band confusion. I did not follow that. That made no sense about the frequency bands. They talked about the void being looking similar to a supernova, but close to Earth. That made no sense. Supernova is an explosion. This thing didn't look like a supernova. And it was very unclear how far away from the Earth it was. At one point, they were talking about sending the spacecraft and moving the orbits to intersect with this void. So it sounded like it was orbiting Earth. But it wasn't obvious, really, exactly where it was. That was confusing to me, or how large it was. The whole 1420 megahertz hydrogen microwave line, I don't know why they got off on that. They threw that in there to have something to do with SETI. But to tell you the truth, it was just garbage plot thrown in, I think, in this one, just to throw something to the SETI people. The images of the void wormhole, to me, were very odd. Some moving things on a colored surface with weird lights. That was also very low budget. I think it could have been done a lot better. But anyway, that's not necessarily plot things. More plot things. They were doing video and audio recordings, which we know because it was a documentary and they showed it to us, in these supposedly highly classified areas. Hey, I've had a clearance before. Not going to happen. They're just not going to be walking around recording things in hallways and in rooms. It's not going to happen. Completely not. Nowhere. So that was bad writing. They talked about an invisible wave growing in a huge cosmic wave. That was really bad terminology in there. They said the brain can live with a body, but the body cannot live without its brain. That's kind of backwards. The brain cannot live without your body. And anyway, the body can nearly live without the brain for a little bit, at least some organs can, but the brain can't live at all without the body. So they were saying that, I guess, to justify moving the brain over to this artificial thing. I found the whole idea of transplanting a human brain and I guess the eyes, I guess the whole head, they weren't very clear whether they were only transplanting the brain or the complete nervous system. It wasn't super clear there. I found that whole idea very unlikely, and the fact that they did this operation like less than 2 weeks before they launched with Jessica, I don't think they would have gotten the bugs out, and she would have recovered and medically would have been ready within 2 weeks. That was extremely unlikely. The Golden Archive drive looked like a standard run-of-the-mill kind of solid-state drive, and no explanation. Well, number one, they called it a GAD. They were very proud of this name. It was right on it. And no explanation of how they were going to somehow make our digital formats be understandable to them. Didn't even discuss that. At various places in it, when they were communicating, they had this digital noise that came on. I found that very unlikely. It appeared to me to be obviously just made up stuff by the writers, the way they did it. And but maybe that's for special effects. There were sounds during the explosions in space. That is a no-no. No, there's no big bass sounds and no explosion sounds in space. Not going to happen. Remember when they said there was incoming stuff that was getting closer and closer? And they said, it's 100 meters away. It's 70 meters away. It's 50 meters away. It's 30 meters away. It's 10 meters away. Well, that was way too slow. That was incredibly slow. It would have been over maybe kilometers, but not meters away. So they were off by a factor of 1,000 there. The whole idea of the new solar system, I didn't understand that. So they had some weird special effects, which I thought were horrible, showing something in our solar system exploding or something. They didn't explain that at all. Was there something coming from somewhere else that caused part of our solar system to deteriorate? Did these aliens that we were communicating on the other end of the wormhole, did they purposely do that so they could create the new Earth? I didn't understand that at all. I understand them protecting the Earth from the fragments of this coming in, but I didn't understand why the solar system exploded in the first place. Was it accidental? Was it purposeful? What was going on? They didn't explain. Number one, they did not show, except out in space in his spacesuit, they did not show the military astronaut, the military human 2.0. My guess is the reason is so they didn't have to pay him any salary. But, or maybe didn't have to have another spacesuit. But they described them being out in space, mysteriously transported out there. He was looking worriedly at his arm, and then Jessica said it exploded like a nuclear bomb. What are we supposed to take from that? Was the military astronaut, was he carrying a bomb in his arm and it exploded and he knew it was going to happen, so that's why he was looking at it worriedly? Didn't make any sense to me, and I just didn't understand that. Let's see, what else? I think that was it. Did I throw enough bombs out there? I liked it. But as Tony said, there were enough plot holes to drive a space shuttle through. N5BB. Thanks.
N5BB, thanks for that very thorough analysis of the plot. A couple of notes that I took from your discussion of the plot holes, at least when it comes to the hydrogen line, I imagine they probably went with that because of the Pioneer plaques. Kind of like they use the hydrogen line as the basis of kind of understanding numbers and lengths and things like that, such as whenever they show like the picture of like the height of a woman or things like that, On the plaque, it's shown as 8 times 21 centimeters because it's about 21 centimeters in wavelength. Also, the hard drive is it's a USB drive. It's universal, right? Of course they're going to have a USB plug, you know? They're going to figure that out right away, you know? All right. Thanks for your input. This is K5ANE Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. Let's continue on here, talking about the plot. KE5ICX. What did you think about this excellent plot tonight?
Well, thank you, Kane, for doing the net this evening. Whoever picked this movie should be hung. But in any case, let me tell you about the plot, the things I thought about it. Close your eyes. Think about this. 2001, A Space Odyssey. 2010, the year we make contact. And speaking of contact, think of the movie Contact. Then think about the movie RoboCop, the Detroit, Dallas version. Then think about the TV series Nova. But don't think about Nova as an exciting, thrilling documentary. Think about Nova talking about golf and how exciting it is. Think about Microsoft, the reboot company. Think about Westworld and whatever happens to Westworld, the TV show thing, whatever they do. Think about, and most importantly, stock footage. Yes, all those things together, crunched into this movie, is what you have. Now, what can you do with all of this? How can you take and make it even less than all of those movies? Here's what you do. You create a company with block letters called Space Agency. Bueller, Space Agency, Incorporated. Now, I'll go into the characters later, but I think you already know. If you've seen the Attack of the Killer Shrews or whatever the movie was where they lost the audio and all the actors' voices were dubbed over by a Dragnet, Jack Webb kind of character explaining everything, that's what this is. That's the Nova Golf part of this. And it was very exciting. Everybody thought everything was really good and we should go on and do these other things. And I'm looking at my watch, trying to figure out what happens next. I already know what's going to happen next. They're going to interview somebody else who's disconnected. Oh, I'll stop. Plot. It's about the plot. We've seen this plot already. And I named the movies, including Microsoft, the movie, and stock footage, the movie. Back to you, Net Control. This is KE5ICX.
KE5ICX. And absolutely, sometimes all these things put together, you know, a thing can then become less than the sum of its parts. And that definitely seems like what we got here, you know. All right, let's continue on. This is K5ANE Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Let's go on to KI5ISI. Eric, what did you think of this plot?
K5ANE, thank you for hosting. You're doing a great job as Net Control, and we appreciate it. The first thing I want to know is how this void affected radio propagation on Earth and those spheres. I mean, do you use meteor scatter to bounce waves? Anyway, yeah, I had time to have random thoughts like this in the movie. It was a little slow at times, and you know, a lot of the characters were rather cold, and some were uninteresting. But we'll get to that later. I thought that it was trying to make some commentary on a couple of topics One being, the ethics of transhumanism and all of that. I mean, that's obvious. I don't think they did anything interesting or new with that, but they talked about it. I think that they were trying with space agency to make a kind of correlation, at least, between private enterprise versus government operations, and maybe contrasting the difference of those two things. I'll reset. I found it, incredibly objectionable to, put these people into a situation where their brains are sucked out, and however they did that, and put into that. So, that put me off, and it got me thinking about the ethics of, as we learn more about technology and different things, at what point do you draw the line, kind of a thing. But I think that was Tom talking. At what point does that become a RoboCop movie instead of a Contact-style movie? There was, definitely, a lot of ethics, and, there was one, we can feed information right to the cerebral cortex. That's amazing, don't you think? Evil scientists laugh here. The whole, I don't know, the first thing really that I do when there's a movie for free on YouTube is I try to set aside, I try to suspend disbelief. Otherwise I'm just going to hate everything I watch, So I think I successfully did that on this one, which is why I kind of liked it. I thought it was a little different, the way that they were doing it, documentary style. I thought it was an interesting convention. It might be getting old by now, but it was kind of neat to see, and it made me wanting to see what happens next. I wanted to, the fella in the wheelchair, I wanted that to be successful for him. He wanted it. It didn't seem like anybody else really had the, hunger to go through this transformation. I genuinely felt sad when that was not a success. I felt like kind of attached to that guy, and I wanted that to be successful for him. So the movie was successful in getting me to feel something, at least once. So there's that. Of course, there's, lots of, I'll get to that when we go to special effects and all that. There's lots of, stock. It's definitely a low-budget film. You definitely have to suspend, rational thought on a lot of things. I thought it was, maybe Dark Mirror before. I think somebody earlier mentioned it's a really good TV episode. I tend to agree with that. One quick comment, and I'll end. The bomb in the arm thing, I agree that was really weird, but thinking about it again, they did at one point in the film have some sort of schematic of this military-style Human 2.0, and one of the guys was the gray-haired counter character to the female lead, was talking about, we're sending these people unarmed into space. They didn't put the weapons in the hands. They didn't really tie that together enough. I think they tried with that one guy exploding it in space there. But I think part of Jessica's success, if you want to call it that, is because she was unarmed. Finally, like I said, I did like it up until the last maybe 10 minutes. The whole solar system being replaced and all of that stuff, it just didn't work for me. I think they were trying to, can we make less mistakes by, starting over on this other planet? And the very first thing they do is send people that aren't people up there and use questionable ethics to get people up there, and I didn't dig that. So anyway, this is KI-5 ISI, back to net control.
KI-5 ISI, thanks for checking in and sharing your opinions on the plot. Let's continue on here. This is K5A&E net control for the Afterglow movie net as the rain keeps picking up. Let's continue on talking about the plot. KF5TSK, Burl and Dallas. What did you think of this plot?
This is KF5TSK. I thought there was a lot of things missing from the plot, such as, this whole idea that, I'll just move my brain over to this machine and we'll be happy. What about your body? What would your family think if they, well, this is you, but I'm in the spacesuit, but I can't get out of the spacesuit anymore. So you can get close, but, we can't really touch. One of the things that bothers me about this movie is you have a space agency, and it's like, we need to talk to the aliens and find out what they want. And, it just doesn't happen in reality that, the first thing would happen was the military would say, I'm in charge, and the next person would be the politician would say, I'm in charge. And you didn't really have that in this movie. It was like, the space agency was making all the, decisions, and it brings up a lot of questions. If, one country invites aliens, what do the other countries think, why do you need a smart person or, a physically fit person to be a brain if you're going to feed directly to their cerebral cortex? It's like that's a plot all by itself, not, dealing with the aliens. So, I guess for a budget movie it was good, but there were some things about it that seemed to be just didn't seem to be a reality. KF5TSK, back to net.
KF5TSK, thanks for your input. Let's continue on here talking about the plot. This is K5A&E net control for the Afterglow movie net. WB5OZL, what did you think of the plot, Brenda?
This is WB5OZL. It's a bad sign when the same guy is the producer and director and writes the screenplay. Slow budget, and generally movies like that are not very good. There's just, there's just not enough creativity in one person to do all of those. I know there are exceptions, but my experience is when you see that on IMDb, it's going to be a bad one. The idea of putting brains into these things was just horrible, very unethical, and it's like, did people think this through? I want to do that. RoboCop, they had to save him to live, but here they took an absolutely healthy person and put him in this, discarded their healthy body and put him in this thing. So what does your future look like? You're now deprived of your senses. Are you going to be able to smell a rose, pet a dog, hold a baby? You are kind of cut off from the world of your senses. That wouldn't be a deal I would take unless I had you to save my life, and they just walked into it. And after the guy died, really? Oh, let's do it again? maybe we'll get it right this time. I don't know. I just thought that was unethical to go ahead and try and do it again. And I didn't see the need for sending a human brain out there. Send a robot. If the body was not going to take the stresses of going through this thing, what about the brain and all of its delicate tissue? And it doesn't take much of a brain injury for you to be really messed up. And I didn't understand the premise of another Earth. Why would you take people from this Earth, put them onto another planet, and expect them to behave any differently? They will do the same things. And what about the orbit of the Earth? Does having this other body right next to it upset it, or what does it do to the moon and its orbit? I don't know. I just thought that was unnecessary and stupid myself. I didn't like the jerky camera work. I kind of didn't like the whole documentary theme anyway. But other than that, I kind of liked it. Back to net, WB5OZL.
WB5OZL. I felt a lot of the same things. Starting off with, when it comes to small teams and low-budget movies, you know, it definitely seems like those are the highest variation on them being good or absolutely terrible. Definitely trending towards being terrible, though. But sometimes, though, they're really good, even though they're sometimes not always the most thought out. They're oftentimes the ones that really kind of make you think. And to a certain extent, some parts of this movie kind of make you do that. Think, why would you make this movie? Anyways, let's continue on. W5EBB, David, what did you think of the plot?
All right, plot. Well, in general, you take the movies Contact, Universal Soldier, Epic, Arrival, and Avatar, blend them in a super basomatic blender, puree for 33 seconds, pour in a glass, and you get this movie, The Beyond. So the whole premise is that you can just take a brain and transplant it, okay? But does that really capture the entirety of the person, the essence? There is something called the second brain, which is the enteric nervous system, which includes the stomach, intestines, and it's got like 500 million neurons, and it's connected to the brain by the vagus nerve and spinal cord, and it kind of gives you a sense of maybe why the phrase gut response, gut reaction, gut feeling, and the like came from. And in fact, the enteric nervous system produces 50% of the dopamine and 95% of the serotonin. So it seems like this second brain is pretty important, and without it, you might end up being kind of messed up mentally. Your faculties might be way off. It's not just a matter of glucose and oxygen. Your main brain probably needs a little help. But really, as I speculated, can you really capture the essence of a person, their personality, their heart and soul with just a brain? Is that all you need? It's a good question. Now, most sci-fi movies going back to the 50s portray this one brain being all that you need to capture a person, so I'll therefore accept it as fact. Now, I agree, the movies shot in this documentary style, I know why they do it. They intend to add a sense of realism through their objectivity, but they can sometimes border on being voyeuristic, especially when using distant shots through tree limbs with a shaky cam. Uh-oh, stalker alert. And yeah, there's some silliness in the plot. Okay, maybe a lot. After the first candidate's brain rejected the transplant to the synthetic body, not 24 hours later, they conceived an alternative, and a solution to prevent another loss. The idea being to update the original synthetic body printing technology with a new integrated tissue organ printing system, introducing a tiny amount of the subject's actual cells into the synthetic gel so the brain doesn't freak out. Oh, and also the enzyme compatibility. So they conjure this up, in short order, And the viewer's suspended disbelief is challenged by such novel technological and medical leaps of faith, which actually worked just days before, successful implementation. So they got really lucky, I guess. Now, at the climax of the movie, we see something just behind the moon explode, and it looks like it's exactly in line with the Earth and the moon, and the remnants of the explosion of that thing behind the moon is what then, is caught by this stuff that's in orbit. And that thing behind the moon was probably there for a long time. If you want to hide something from view from Earth, the best place to put it is right behind the moon, where it stays in lock orbit, and nobody on Earth would ever see it. W5EBB.
W5EBB. This is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. As to the other side of the moon, that's absolutely the best place to hide things, as we all saw Iron Sky and know that's where the Nazis went to go hide after the end of World War II. So, if you haven't seen Iron Sky, I'd highly recommend it. It's an excellent movie. Let's continue on, and let's continue talking about the plot. KG5BZWJ, what did you think of the plot that you saw?
This is KG5BZW, and normally when I get their movie for Afterglow, I try to give myself extra time because there's a tendency for some particular movies to I just have to do a poem and walk away for a few minutes and do something, play a game or something, just because something is so silly. I'm totally taken out of the movie, and I just didn't have time for it to move. I think I could have made it through. Well, maybe. There was some, yeah. So, I was there's, let's see, where was to start? Oh, I wanted to first note the one interesting thing that they actually tied in, which was kind of cool. There is something called you can read it on Wikipedia, the WOW signal, and that's where that hydrogen line thing they brought in. So they actually tried to bring in some real things to add the movie a little bit, and that was after they showed the picture of the actual paper that had the circle. Oh, this is an interesting signal. And it's actually the WOW signal story is actually kind of interesting, and so I'm kind of like, okay, thumbs up for bringing in something that was actually kind of cool that actually happened and try to integrate it into the plot. And I don't mind that. But oh gosh, okay, going back to the stuff that irritated me. Let me read that first. The biggest first thing that was like, oh no, you didn't. Of course, it's based in the probe, it prevails. So we're going to do the whole, an actual human team. What? No. Oh, this is like a plot stolen from an early 50s movie where they didn't really have have computers that, could do as many things as they. It's like the writer, the film didn't understand all of the probes that were sent to the planet, what all they do, and the reason we send the probes because they're less expensive, and they're going to pretend that, oh yeah, just sending this some sort of human hybrid thing is going to be better somehow. I don't know. Maybe they try to explain it later. But I really didn't like it. And of course, it's like even they had a scientist explain that that's not a good idea. It doesn't take a scientist to figure it out. And so I had to stop it and like play a game or something, come back to it, and then okay, I finally come back to it, and well, it actually, I don't know, I get distracted a little bit. But so then there's the second thing where humans were just eager to sign up and have their brains removed, and it's not like Brenda says, not RoboCop where they're saving lives. It's just human like you. They're going basically. They're just they're all on suicide watch, but they of course no. That's not really what supposedly is happening. But yeah, that is actually what is happening. But no, okay, I'm rambling. It's just so irritating. And I don't know, was getting enough time, I got over my irritations. But from what others have described, it seems like the whole movie is just the same way. Anyway, so I really don't have anything else for any of the other things. I might share something later at the very end. Who knows if there's something, but I don't know. Oh yeah, the whole secret thing about there's a top secret thing where this giant glowing orb is orbiting the Earth. How can people not see it? We have you're not going to have a top secret mission to this void that's glowing. We don't know how big it is, but it looks as big. At least I would think more. I don't know. They didn't really say, but still, top secret mission to it yet? No, there's anyway, whatever. So I'll hand it back to Net Control. KG5BW.
This is K5ANE, Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Thanks, KG5BZW, for your input. And don't you know that those strange things you're seeing in the sky, that's not aliens, that's swamp gas. Yeah, swamp gas. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and do another quick round of check-ins here in case anybody happened to miss the first round of check-ins. If you'd like to come in and talk about this movie, come on in with your call sign, your name, your location, and if you saw the movie or not.
WT9. Sorry, Whiskey Tango, Niner Victor. Michael in Plano. Do I have to talk about the movie?
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa, Mike, November, James, Echo, Oklahoma. I did not see the movie. I'll just be listening. Take you 5 p.m. in.
Alrighty, I got two check-ins there. I got Whiskey Tango 9 Victor, Michael in Plano, who saw the movie, and KG5 PMN. I missed your name, sorry, and you didn't see the movie. You're just checking in and listening in, so I probably won't call on you unless you call out to have some kind of input. Anybody else out there real quick? right, nothing heard. WT9V, what did you think about the plot? Or, I mean, I guess whatever you want to talk about for a few minutes.
Well, the nice part, as Tom says, about, going next to last, is that, everybody else has already said everything that needs to be said. I mean, thanks to Bill and Brenda and, well, pretty much everybody else. I don't have anything left to complain about. So I will just, do what I did in the, back in the old days and make snarky comments about things that other people said. Eric mentioned something about, wondering how they slurped the people's brains out. Oh, I will refer Eric to Starship Troopers because they had that in there. I agree with Brenda. I was about to barf while the two women were talking, and probably a number of other times. I think the camera person was having an epileptic seizure, or possibly they had Parkinson's. They've obviously never heard or couldn't afford a Steadicam or a tripod. Put the camera on a tripod, people. David, the figuring out the adding part of the person into the matrix thing, 24 hours later, obviously they were using, or maybe a derivative of Uber and their corporate values, which is move fast and break things. That's really all I got at this point. WT9V, I'll try and come up with something else for things that other people say on the next round. Back to net control.
Alrighty, and yeah, I definitely feel you on everybody else has kind of said a lot of things. It definitely seems like this movie had a lot of potential, and these, it talks about a lot of neat things. It's got this whole transhumanism concept going on, and first contact kind of activities. But it just overall, I think they tried sticking to the documentary style filming a bit too strongly, and they kind of forgot to have an actual movie in this. So that's pretty much how I feel about the plot. This is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. I guess we'll go ahead and start talking about characterization. For this time, I'm just going to start picking names out of a hat here and kind of randomly go through the list. And we'll start off with WB5OZL. Brenda, what did you think of the characters?
WB5OZL. I thought to some extent they were kind of one-dimensional. This guy just died, and they're kind of like, oh well. Like next time. You'd think there'd be a little more grief than that. And, they just talked about everything like they were ordering tea. I found that kind of disturbing. There just wasn't any emotion anywhere. And they were going through some extremely dramatic and traumatic experiences, that people dying in space and people dying on the table, and the whole situation was pretty grave anyway. We didn't know what was going to happen, what the aliens were up to. Maybe we're all dinner. Who knows? I would be a little more concerned than they were. As far as the people they picked for the acting, it was okay. I didn't think it was inspired. Never heard of any of these people. I didn't think their acting was great, but it wasn't that bad either. Well, It is what it is. I don't know. Yeah, it just kind of left me cold. Back to that, WB50ZL.
WB50ZL, this is K5A&E, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And we'll continue on and pick another random name on the list here. We'll go with KI5ISI. Eric, what did you think of the characters?
Okay, so they either did this on purpose or they just are bad. And I want to believe they did this on purpose. I think, everyone, excluding a very few amount, the wheelchair guy and Jessica, everybody else is cold as ice. And I want to believe that that was a decision made. They don't express grief at disturbing, awful things that are happening. I want to say that that was a decision made to convey the inhuman elements of megacorporations and government entities. But I don't know, if one guy writing the screenplay and, I don't know if a one-man production is I don't know. So that's kind of what I think of the characters in general. I'll go ahead and reset real quick. Yeah, I did like Wheelchair Guy. I connected to him briefly. I think he might have been one of the better actors. I think he was probably the person that conveyed the most emotion. Jessica was probably next in line as far as a character that you didn't hate. But I really didn't like any other characters. And again, I want to believe that that was done on purpose. Jessica's, a lot. Yes, the character development was shallow for the most part. The meeting of colleagues as they're on the patio and discussing if she wants her brain sucked into a robot. It's very much, very generic and weird. And I mean, your brain's going to get sucked into a robot. You're having tea over this. It's so weird. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting either decision made, and I'm going to run with that, or it was just bad characterization in general. Back to net control, KI5ISI.
KI5ISI, this is K5A&E, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And I definitely feel the same way. As far as the character in the wheelchair was probably the most fleshed out, kind of rounded character that had real drives going on, explainable drives, I guess I should say. Let's continue on talking about characterization. I'll pick another random name here. November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony, what did you think of the characters?
Well, as inspired by your comment earlier where they had so many neat ideas they kind of forgot to have a movie, I think they kind of forgot to have characters. I agree with the previous comments. They are mostly uninteresting and appear to be ordering, I don't even know if it's food because sometimes I like food. But yeah, just reciting, I'd like a large telephone, please, or something of that nature. I think that may also be a side effect of that documentary style. It makes it easy to skimp on the writing and not have as much of a story, but it also really makes it hard to get involved with characters, and it kind of really makes you not care. Two kind of extra notes. The motto of the space agency appeared to be something like Verum Adsque Terminus, which is more or less truth without end, or truth has no end, which is sort of admirable in a way, but if you really practice that in your life, it's a great way to get punched in the nose. If I walked up to you and said, at the funeral perhaps, I always thought your mother was boring and annoying and her cooking wasn't very good either, that might be true, but boy, I shouldn't have said it. So I don't know. I wonder what led them to pick that motto, and if it was because somebody on the movie had a problem with getting punched in the nose. The other little follow-up comment I wanted to make, a while back, N5BB mentioned that it's hard to just imagine filmmakers wandering around making a documentary of a super secret project. I don't know if they still do it. I've never had a security clearance, and I wouldn't be in the know anyway. But the U.S. government actually used to do that. There were all kinds of documentary films made about the early atomic bomb tests, and each one would have different film crews operating in different areas who didn't necessarily know about the whole project. And the films would then have to come out in a number of versions. There might be a highlight reel shown to the public in a movie theater. There'd be a for official use only version that officers who participated in the test would be allowed to see, all the way up to a final complete movie about the test that might only be seen by 10 or a dozen people who had sufficient clearance to see it. So although it seems weird, the U.S. government at least used to put together documentary-style movies about super secret projects. Kind of odd, but they did it. So, yep, I'll just leave it at that. And, yep, characters, what characters? I didn't really notice many. NT5TM.
NT5TM, this is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Yeah, especially that talk about the documentaries. I always thought it was really interesting, the videos that were shot to kind of sell the space program to Congress, that, you can look up these things these days with, like, Werner von Braun and whatnot, and they, make pretty much, like, production quality movies and things like that, talking about these space stations that they want to build, and, it's kind of interesting, all the filming that Washington at least used to do, and I imagine they probably still do a good bit these days. We're going to continue on talking about characterization, and let's take another name out of the hat here. KF5TSK, Burl. What did you think of the characters?
This is KF5TSK. Well, I think the comment that the characters were one-dimensional was, very good. That, it was like they were concerned, but it was like they really didn't have any decisions to make, that while the space agency is dealing with their problems, you have the military, and, the military was there. They had their guns aimed. They were going to shoot if anything happened, and it's like, it wasn't their concern, and it was like, they really didn't have that much emotion. Oh, we're going to suck out the brains of our coworker, and we'll put her in the spacesuit, and no one was really that concerned about it, and I'm sure some people would, like to see what's on Pluto, but, is it really that exciting? K5TSK, back to net.
KF5TSK, thanks for your input. This is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. Let's continue on here, talking about characterization. Next random name I'm going to pick is KE5ICX. Tom, what did you think of the characters?
Well, thank you, Kane, and thank you for being net control for this fine film. You jumped in the barrel and you came out standing on top on this thing. Okay, characterization. There was none. Not really. I mean, you really figure it out. First off, we put the veil of a documentary on top of it, which means that these people are always on guard. They're not going to be emotive or reactive because it's a documentary. So that means you don't have to have actors actually acting. All they have to do is kind of look good, which means they're not actors, they're models. They're models. Not 2.0, they're 1.0 models, and then we had 2.0 models, which were RoboCop, which were equally as boring in so many ways as it was like a data dump. It's like rebuilding your Microsoft Windows computer. Do I seem angry? maybe. Let me reset. So while I'm contemplating and wondering, are we going to get any characterization, I get more stock footage of people shooting at stuff and floods and whatever's happening, and I'm thinking, well, what does that mean in the scheme of things? Doesn't matter. Did you also notice that in the process of waiting for the actors to be acting, we get the same shots over and over again? Nah, you didn't notice that, did you? Because you were sleeping. That's why you didn't notice it. So, we got the guy with the American flag thing on his lapel, whatever that is, and with perfect hair. Okay, he's a model. He's doing whatever it is he's doing. And you're going, well, that's really interesting. He doesn't care. Oh, here. I was rambling a little bit. I was getting angry because of the model thing. But here, what was I going to say? Hold on. I remember. Here's the thing. You got people talking antiseptically about, you're going to be put in a robot. And as other people mentioned on the plot part of it is that why don't you just send a robot in rather than making a robot out of people and calling it 2.0? I mean, it's like an upgrade on Windows. You know it's not going to be a good upgrade. It never happens the way I'd expect. And it's incompatible with everything else. Well, the 2.0 were incompatible with characters. Nobody cared. When the gal ended up in the thing, you went, oh, that's nice. She's a Coke machine. Then you got the guy next to her that go up and then they do the data download and there's corruption data and you're going, oh, well, it's another day with Windows. And I have distanced ourselves from the characters yet again because we have to worry about the fact that, the upgrade, the thing isn't working and then he ends up out in space. Does that sound like what it does? This isn't about people. This is about Windows and upgrades and how they don't work. And the story's been done a million times. Hold on. Breathe in through the mouth, out the nose, or is it breathe in through the nose? Breathe in through the nose and out the mouth. Okay. All right. I feel better. The characters still suck. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Let's all remember to keep breathing. This is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. Thanks for that input, KE5ICX. Let's continue on. Pick another random name here. KG5BZW, Jay. What did you think of the characters?
This is KG5BZW. I did feel like I had enough of the movie to get a feeling of the characters. And I pretty much agree with everything everybody said about the characters anyway, so from what I've seen, it just, I don't know, maybe it'd be worth talking about how some documentaries actually bring out the humans and how maybe this, the pseudo documentary didn't, and all that, but I don't know. That's all I got to say. KG5BZW.
KG5BZW, thanks a lot. Let's continue on here, talking about characterization. Let's jump back up to the list here. N5BB. Bill, what did you think of the characters?
Well, thank you, Kane. This is N5BB. Well, when Tom starts saying, this has been done 1,000 times, we know he's about ready to go into self-destruct mode. at least he did not progress to this has been done 1,000,000 times. He stopped at 1,000. Anyway, I digress. You can tell he really cares about it. I agree that the characterization was pretty thin. The one thing that bothered me, besides the cavalier way that the guy in the wheelchair, the fact that he died, it wasn't treated with as much gravity as I think it should have. I mean, they made some little baby steps at doing that, but I didn't like the way they did that. In fact, I didn't like the it would have been much more exciting to me if somebody that was in a wheelchair had been able to get in this new body and go. But no, they just dropped that storyline. So I didn't like that part. When Jessica was going to go in, do the operation and do it, did they talk about... The only thing we really saw about her making her decision was going over and doing a supposedly off-the-record kind of meeting with the woman director of the project at her house. And did you notice the documentary camera recorded all of that? Which didn't make any sense if it was a personal, unofficial kind of thing. And I don't understand also as a documentary how the first scenes in it, when they were at her house and with her daughter and everything, and they were kind of saying hi to the camera, that just got accidentally recorded when she got the call saying this had happened. That was too good to be true. So I didn't believe that either. I didn't understand her lying to her daughter about Jessica. I don't understand why there was a need for her to say it that way at that time. I mean, it turns out that a few days later, they weren't very clear exactly how many days, they came back. She came back. So it was kind of a mistake for her so quickly to tell her daughter that Jessica had died. So I did not understand that at all. To understand the reason for it. Maybe they were trying to add a little tiny bit of humanity to it. There wasn't much. The other director, the guy director, he was kind of stone-faced and not much emotion. And the woman director only had a little bit more true emotion. So, and poor Jessica, we didn't learn much at all about her life and why she was willing to go and what was going on with her and her friends and her family. Zilch. It was a low-budget movie. I think they cut all of that out because those parts would have cost them a little bit more money and it would have been harder to write. They went the easy way out. In fact, but again, the general arc of the film I kind of liked, but as I think Tony had said earlier, it would have been better as a made-for-TV movie. N5BB.
N5BB, I agree with you on a lot of things on the characterization overall. This is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. Let's continue on here, pick another random name out of the hat. WT9V, Michael, what did you think of the characters?
Well, I thought the spacecraft were kind of neat, and I liked the big black things that were just, hanging in the sky. And the robots were kind of cool. Beyond that, meh. But honestly, what I really want to know, and I'm a little unclear on one thing, is what did Tom think about the characters? WT9V, back to net.
Alrighty. Thanks a lot for that, WT9V. W5EBB. David, what did you think of the characters?
Well, they spent a lot of time at the space agency vetting the volunteer human 2.0 candidates. Physical prowess, mental aptitude, emotional stability, and foremost, the candidate must represent the best of humanity in case of first contact with aliens, and must observe complete secrecy about the true nature of the project, including lying to their friends and family with a cover story about the true nature of the project and their participation in it. Now, it's one thing to be required to maintain secrecy in your job. It's quite another to be required by your job to actively, knowingly lie to your family and friends. Now, Gillian LaRue typifies this character, the morals, the commitment to the mission required of such a candidate when she lies to her own daughter's face about the non-death of their friend Jessica Johnson, a.k.a. Jessica 2.0. Jessica LaRue, I'll ask, this is from the movie, what is she describing here? Our advanced satellite geomapping indicates they are scattered across the entire globe. Although we don't have an accurate number, it's estimated there are hundreds of these spheres floating in our skies, with more appearing every day. Let me reset. The geomapping also revealed a pattern within the formation of the spheres that says that they are aligning themselves in preparation for something. Well, that sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? I was thinking of the original Star Trek episode, The Tholian Web. What were you thinking of? Generally, I think the characters had too much leniency in their conversational style, extemporaneous delivery, not sticking to a script, assuming there was one. And this creates some kind of awkward moments in the dialogue when you kind of just have to say, what? Dr. Kuresh, while speaking to the first human 2.0 candidate before the transplant procedure, says, the only level of, let's say, uncomfortability that you might experience. Uncomfortability? I think he was looking for the word discomfort. Now, I'm not sure I would trust a doctor with such dubious diction, but then again, the medical community is well known to use ornate words for common terms like ambulate for walk, violaceous for purple, and let's see if I can say this, erythematous instead of red. Erythematous? Erythematous, yeah, let's go with that. And we also see the same doctor removing his mask in the scene after the first candidate died. A mask which looked the same as the thin pastel green pleated variety you would use when you're mowing the lawn to avoid breathing in dust, pollen, or pixie dust. Not so sure that would work too well in a surgical setting, though. But hey, low budget. Now, Latin is a strange language, and I noticed the same thing that Tony did. And based on my playing around with Google Translate, there doesn't seem to be a one-to-one mapping between Latin and English. You'll often find one-to-many and many-to-one mapping. So the space agency motto, verum absca terminos, each individual word would translate to true no ends. The whole phrase translates to but without limits. And if you reverse the translation, but without limits, translates to sed fines sine. Completely different Latin phrase for the same words, but without limits. But a truth with no ends kind of aligns with the graphic on the logo, which is a black sphere traveling around in a circular orbit around the compass with the red axis pointing up. Now, there's another Latin phrase on the paraplegic candidate, a tattoo on his left arm, and I believe it says Celio eam meus fratum, which I believe translates to restart now, my brothers, which is kind of ominous. Retranslate that phrase in Latin using the bidirectional arrows on Google Translate, and you get I am silent. Completely different. But sadly, he wasn't able to restart. And finally, did anyone else notice in the last scenes showing the future human landings on Earth 2, there were no human 1.0s, only human 2.0s. I thought that was kind of telling. W5EBB.
W5EBB, thanks a lot for that input. This is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Let's just quickly do a check here. Are there anybody else out there that would like to check into the net? I'll give you a few seconds to come on in with your call sign, name, location, and if you saw the movie. All right, nothing heard. I guess we'll go ahead and do one more round real quick to talk about the best thing of the movie, the special effects, and anything else you'd like to share. We'll just go down starting from the top and work our way down. NT5TM, what did you think of the special effects?
Well, there was an odd inconsistency. Sometimes the space capsule was portrayed as an Apollo-shaped capsule. Other times it was portrayed as a rotating group of three rectangular objects, like in 2010, the science fiction movie. Other than that, not much. They were kind of pretty and sometimes helped convey a sense of wonder, but I tend not to take effects too seriously anymore in the day of CGI. NT5TM.
NT5TM, thanks for that. Let's continue on. N5BB, what do you think of the special effects?
Thank you. This is N5BB. The human 2.0 in their spacesuits, and I'm assuming they were permanently in their spacesuits. That's a little confusing to me, but anyway, the humans in those, the human 2.0s were okay, I guess. Although I don't understand how they would get enough power or lots of the things about them doesn't make any sense to me. But little suspension of disbelief, I guess they were okay. The rest of it, I think, were horrible, personally. I did not like the void. I think it looked, as I mentioned earlier, just stupid. These flashing colored lights that were kind of moving around like some worms. The big old black huge balls that were somewhere above the Earth. It looked like they were close, but I don't know how close they really were. With the mysterious, things moving around on them. I don't know. I didn't like those either, personally. When those things sent out the foggy-looking layers to protect the Earth from the attack from the things coming in from space, maybe that was a little bit okay. But and we didn't get to see anything significant about the wormhole. They gave this very vague image of some circular kind of thing, but nothing, and nothing on the other side. And although we know that there were some images captured on the other side, because we saw the image of the military astronaut outside the capsule. We saw an image of that. And it was a documentary film, so it didn't look like it was an imagined image. It was a real image, which would have meant it was from Jessica's brain that captured it, or the transcoding, which is a little weird if you look up transcoding. But anyway, but we didn't see anything else really about the other place that she visited. It was all very vague. So in that sense, it was a little bit like the Carl Sagan movie, whose name I'm temporarily forgetting. This is very embarrassing. Where Jodie Foster, goes through this weird machine through a wormhole thing, it was kind of like that in that we don't get to see really very much about what's happening on the other side, which I think is really a cop-out. They should have been brave enough to show us something about what happened on the other side of the wormhole. But, I don't know. Personally, I thought it was just really cheap special effects, especially involving the wormhole and everything off of the Earth. And I agree that the spacecraft were sometimes Apollo capsules and sometimes something else. That didn't make much sense. So, I give it maybe a D as in Delta for special effects. And Ty BB.
N5BB, this is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5SC. Let's continue on. We're right at about midnight, so I bet Elvis has left the building now, and that means the regular timeout timer is in effect. Let's keep that in mind as we continue talking about special effects. KE5ICX, so what do you think about the special effects?
Well, thank you, King. First off, I thought the special effects overall looked pretty good, and this is one of the things that, particularly in this day and age, where a lot of people are able to, particularly younger folks, have computers in front of them, and everybody's younger than me, but younger folks can take and do movie magic at a fraction of the cost what you see normally from years and decades past. The effects overall looked very, very good. I think the only thing that I disliked was there was the one scene, and this is the one with the two sisters, where they're inside in what looks like the kitchen, but I think it's actually like some sort of a building, apartment thing in England somewhere, and they showed a larger shot outside. You could look inside, and that was where they filmed the thing. And the microphones were just poorly placed. Oh boy, do I notice poorly placed microphones. I deal with it all the time in my job. And as such, it was very obvious. It took you out of the thing, and it was a scene that was added for no apparent reason, and that goes back to the original thing. It breaks out of the documentary immediately. So I think it was hastily added at some point because they needed some sort of a fill or post or something with it. But I will say, Space Agency, the most boring space agency on the planet, had very good special effects. Everything looked very good. Had a bunch of numbers going across the screen, blinky lighty things, and all of that looked very convincing for Space Agency. The most boring space agency in the galaxy. So that's it. That's all I got. KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, this is K5A&E Net Control. Thanks for your input, and I definitely agree that for a lot of the scenes and things like that, they did a pretty decent job at giving it that documentary kind of feel, and a lot of the things that they did were good looking, even if they didn't always make a lot of sense. Let's continue on here. AI5ISI, what'd you think of the special effects?
At times they were good, at times they were okay, and at times they were awful. I actually kind of liked the wormhole looking thing. It was neat. Did like the spheres. It's weird, we've seen 2 movies in a row now with these spheres. The black spheres that seemed like some sort of organic life. I guess that's the aliens or something that they sent. I don't know, it was neat, and kind of that smoky effect that they made. I dug. I thought it was good. I think Tom's been talking about stock footage, like the helicopters going in. It looks like what we call in the industry photo bashing, and a lot of it. Just juxtaposing, parts of some stock footage over something else, and there was a whole lot of that, which I didn't appreciate. But it is what it is. So that's all I got. KI5ISI.
KI5ISI. Yeah, it's kind of funny that we just recently watched this movie with like a white hard sphere thing, and now we have this movie with a bunch of black fluid spheres. I wonder if we're talking about the same universe here, and maybe the incoming meteorites were sent by the white sphere aliens as retribution for killing their guy in the 50s, and yeah. Anyways, maybe the black sphere people are trying to protect us, and we're in the middle of this intergalactic turf war. Anyways, this is K5A&E, Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Let's continue on. KF5TSK, what do you think of the special effects?
This is KF5TSK. Well, most of the effects, I think, were just stock effects, but the thing that troubled me most about the movie is they would show something, but they really wouldn't explain what it was. It's like, what are these little nodules that keep rotating around these big spheres? Or, these lights would shoot out at something, and are they destroying something, or are they making it better? Is it a sign of peace? I really didn't. That was the biggest takeaway from the whole movie is I just didn't know what to think. They would just show you the effect, but what are they doing? KF5TSK back to net.
KF5TSK, thanks for your input. Let's continue on. WB5OZL, Brenda, what did you think of the special effects?
This is WB5OZL. Well, special effects are probably their strong point. And I looked up the writer, director, producer, Has Dulul was his name. He started as a visual effects artist on films like The Dark Knight and Hellboy 2. So he really does have credentials as a special effects guy. And here he just decided, I guess, wanted to make a movie. He's worked on a lot of stuff. He's not just somebody that just got off the train. But, he should be the special effects director for some movie that, the writer, director, whatever, has heart. Because this guy is, he's just, all the people are just cold, and he needs to not write the human aspect of this. If you can't care about the characters, you're just not going to like the movie very much, with a few exceptions. Like 2001, the characters, just had stone faces, but you still cared about them. Not sure what they did, as opposed to, say, The Martian with Watney. We all desperately care about this guy. And, it really makes for a more, a better experience overall if you can care about the characters. And this guy just doesn't know. He didn't know that part of the recipe. So, that's why it is what it is. But we still have pretty good special effects. And this film made money. I have to say that. So, it was a visually entertaining movie. It's nice to watch because it was a lot of color and action, and it kind of helped take the edge off the lack of characterization, I thought. All right, I'm going to quit there. WB5OZL.
WB5OZL, Thanks for that input. Let's continue on talking about special effects. We'll go to W5EBB. David, what do you think of special effects?
The special effects were certainly one of the better points of this movie, and I thought overall the movie was good. I mean, for recent movies, there are others you could choose from which would be poorer choices, like Ice Catastrophe. Yes, that's a real movie, and it was real bad. But at some point, I think there might be a little pushback on all these CGI special effects. I say this knowing it's not going to be the case, but some of us, I think, would like to see a movie that was made just with practical special effects, done the old-fashioned way, with no computers at all, and just see how good they could do. I think you could use a combination of convex, concave lenses and glass spheres and Fresnel magnifier, maybe a Picard desk crystal prop replica, and you could easily simulate wormholes, gravimetric distortions, warped star fields, all kinds of cosmic phenomenon that you can be created using practical optical effects. And I would like to see somebody actually do a movie where no computer graphics are in it at all. But that might be a pipe dream. W5EBB.
W5EBB, absolutely. It would be cool to see more special, practical effects in movies, and it's always nice seeing that, but it's just so expensive getting big sets and all the licenses and things like that to blow things up these days. All right, let's continue on talking about special effects. KG5BZW, Jay, what do you think of the special effects?
It's KG5BZW. Yeah, special effects, the best special effects are the effects you don't even know are effects. And there are many, many films where CGI effects are applied. And it's not sci-fi or anything. It might be just some historical drama. And, I mean, sometimes you got to figure it, just pigeonhole and say, okay, they didn't have the budget to build a whole set of, or a whole replica of Paris or something, I don't know, or a whole mid or early 20th century Chicago replica or something, so they probably had to have done, some sort of effects there. So you could probably figure it out just by that, whole logic kind of thing. But, there's some really amazing things that have been done. I will say there were a few things in this film that aren't bad quality. The Photoshop, oh goodness. You know how in Forrest Gump, and how, well, at least at the time, going to watch a Forrest Gump, now it's maybe a little bit more obvious, but it's how Forrest Gump was how Tom Hanks was seamlessly integrated into all these scenes and stuff. I mean, there's just a sequence of photographs in this film that, man, the actor photoshopped into like a wedding picture, and it looked like some astronaut photo or something. And the whole thing, they all look photoshopped to me. The face just did not quite match the actual, the orientation of the face was just not quite how the actual photo, what I would think the actual photo would be. And it's stuff like that just took me out of the film as well, which is another minor irritation. So yeah, there's that. The effects that actually look like the special effects are supposed to be, I actually like the wormhole. I thought that from the brief scenes that I saw of the transhuman, some of the transhuman stuff was actually pretty cool. But yeah, overall it's kind of average. Yes, I don't know. I wouldn't call it horrible. I wouldn't call it. I sure wouldn't call it great either. KG5BZ3.
KG5BZW. This is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. I fully agree with you with the idea that the best special effects are the ones that just seem like that's just how it is, you know, really making it look like real life. WT9V, what do you think of the special effects?
Oh, thank you, Kane. I don't know. They were all right, I guess, given everything else in the movie. You know, they didn't have enough money to make them good, but they weren't horrible. I really don't have a whole lot to say that hasn't already been said. So I guess I'll just throw it back to you. Lucky you. What do you think about the special effects? WT9V.
Well, this is K5E&E, Net Control, and overall I felt that the special effects were pretty well done, pretty well balanced throughout the movie. Things like the human 2.0 suits really blended in well with the scenes, and they did a good job kind of making it look real, and it had weight and realistic motions and things like that. But yeah, ultimately it couldn't save the movie and make it a great movie. But they tried. And anyways, we'll continue on for next week. The movie is going to be They May Be Giants, the 1971 version of the movie. I don't know if there's other movies out there called There May Be Giants, but it's the 1971 version that you want. We'll go ahead and see if anybody else has any last-minute comments. If you do, go ahead and come on in with your call sign now, and I'll mark you down, and we'll come back to you. Nothing heard. All right. Well, this has been an excellent Afterglow Movie Net night. Thanks for everybody that checked in. I'll see you guys next week. This is K5A&E Net Control of the Afterglow Movie Net. We'll return the repeaters back to normal amateur use.
K5ICX and 5BB.
I figured I'd hear from you, Bill. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
You always hear from me. You never suspect, though, the Spanish Inquisition. Well, thank you for choosing They May Be Giants. I'm trying to remember if I've seen the whole movie. I know I've seen portions of the movie, but I think it was on TV, and, you know, some of those things, when they were on regular commercial TV years ago, you might tune in and see half an hour of it or something. Or it might have been shortened for release on commercial TV. But of course, I'm sure what made you think about it was me commenting about my favorite geek band, They Might Be Giants. So I appreciate it, Tom. By the way, it started to pour down rain over here again. This rain's supposed to continue until early in the morning, but we have had a lot inside BB.
Well, Bill, I have to tell you a couple of things. First off, your last comment is there's been so much water here that the backyard pool is now bigger than it was. because it's gone off the concrete and all the way up to the back door here. So, yeah, it's been kind of flooding, and they had a flooding alert earlier. So, yes. And yes, they may be giants was picked based on what you mentioned, and it's a little different from what we normally do. But I looked at it and went, "This is too good not to try." So we venture in. It's kind of on the edge of science fiction, but I don't think it's so bad not to watch it. So I'm looking forward to it. Good copy. I'll send the links out to everybody. It's on YouTube, and it's not blurry vision like we usually watch with public domain and all of that. It seems to be in pretty good shape. Although the Beyond was in very good shape, but I think they did that for a different reason. Okay, that's it from me. 7-3. See you next week or sooner. This is KE5ICX.
Okay, and just to clear things up for people listening, it's not they may be giants, it's they might be giants. Both the band and the movie is They Might Be Giants is the name of it. It's got George C. Scott. I remember that. And Joan Woodward. So anyway, I thought, like I say, I've seen part of it, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Keep dry. See you later. Inside BB Clear.
W5FC.
All right, I messed up. They might be giants. Well, they may be giants too. Might? May? What's the difference? Just a few letters. All right, see y'all later. Bye.
Well, it's just as I mentioned, that wasn't a documentary. It was a documentary. Now, that wasn't really your mistake. You just missed those huge yellow letters right across the title page. Oh, man. If you do a Google search on, quote, documentary, unquote, which is documentary without the end character, you'll find a whole lot of people, just a whole lot of them, that have put YouTube posts and other things spelling documentary wrong. Anyway, enough said. N5BB clear. Don't float away.